Well, it says we're live. Looks like there are some people here already. Good to see you guys. All right. So today we're going to tackle a little problem that's sort of affecting everybody now, and that is the AI slop problem. So basically, where we're at is when we use AI to create anything. It could be content, it could be videos, it could be images, it can be websites, whatever we're using to you know whatever we're having AI create for us, we're starting to see some very clear patterns emerge in the output. It's a lot of similarities. It's real easy to spot like AI generated web designs now. I could tell you if something came from Gemini or Claude at a glance. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but in total, it actually is pretty self-defeating. It's pretty bad that we see the exact same patterns being employed from website to website. It doesn't take a genius to kind of look at the landscape to step back and say, okay, well, the pattern that was applied here, maybe not the exact same pattern that should be applied over here. There's probably a better, more sensitive way to handle this situation, that situation. Everybody's needs are a little different. We have a good sense of that. And AI is not really fulfilling those duties very well. And specifically what I have noticed that I, worked on for this live stream is that Claude is really starting to converge on very specific design outcomes, no matter what you're using it, to design. Whatever you're trying to design, it's like applying the same rubric to everything. That it's like, I've got one playbook. You want me to design this thing or that thing? Well, I'm going to apply this one playbook and give you those results, and that's what you get. It's not the worst thing in the world right now, but it's a problem that I want to get out in front of, and I want to start solving, today, basically, and so we can move ahead with better outcomes. Now, what led me to so the problem is that Claude itself, the model, includes some skills to do all the things that it does. Okay, so the model is basic intelligence, and then to have that intelligence be useful, you have these skills applied to the model that gives it some abilities. It says, okay, you got this intelligence. Here's how you use that intelligence to achieve this thing or that thing. That's what skills are. The model has skills built in. You can also build your own skills for the model to enhance it. This is actually a really great ecosystem and the foundation for things that can be incredible in the future. But right now, we have to understand how infantile and juvenile the whole ecosystem is right now. Anthropic puts out some skills so that people can use their models more effectively and be impressed by them. But the reality is most of these skills are not very refined. And that's not something that we're all just like sitting here like, oh yeah, we know this. We're just totally equipped with this knowledge. Like I sort of have really come to realize this over the past week. And I start to understand how this whole ecosystem is put together. The Claude model has some skills associated with it. They're not very intense. They're just not. They're not that comprehensive. You think about it, the engineers at Anthropic, their core expertise is not like creating a web design skill. The person who should be creating a web design skill should have like 20 years of experience and really be like one of these Renaissance types who's well-versed in all the aspects of web design: typography, spacing, sizing, consistent pattern usage, good HTML structures. It goes on and on and on. Good sense of branding, all this stuff. There's all these things that a good designer is going to know. And the very best skill to leverage AI is going to need to incorporate all those things. And the reality is the stuff that Anthropic's putting out there isn't nearly that comprehensive or intense. Okay, so that's the first big realization that is going to lead us to where we're going today. So I got curious about this and I started asking Claude, and working with Claude Code, I started asking about the operating environments and like the design skills and all that. Like, why are we seeing similar outcomes? Why does it seem to me that since January, I'm actually seeing less diversity in output from Claude Code when it's doing design. In January, I was getting, some I do a cupcake site. It does okay. It really applied the patterns in a different way for this site. I do another type of site. Okay, it used similar patterns, but really applied them differently. And now when I do this exercise, I'm getting almost the exact same results. Like it's really starting to look like rubber stamp sort of stuff. And I don't like that. So I asked about it. And it said, well, it's got a design skill and it also knows what is being done out there in the wild, like how the skill is being used. And so people are using the skill to output more designs, and they're just using that output without pushing back against the system saying, hey, you did this. I don't like this. This is a pattern you keep repeating. There's no self-correcting mechanism in there. And so the AI model feels even greater confidence in what it already does for design. So it feels better about what it's doing through widespread usage, even though it's producing demonstrably worse results that people are becoming even more critical of. Like on social media, you can go on X and search around for 5 minutes, and you'll see people being very critical of AI design patterns and saying, oh, I can tell that AI designed this. I would never work with somebody like that, blah, 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 whatever. You can pass that all off as like meaningless slander, but the vibe of what they're saying is true. It's easy to spot AI patterns, especially in web design. So the question is, no, so after so Claude Code kind of revealed the playbook to me. It said, well, the skill is not that intense. It's got a certain set of directives, and it knows it like, okay, here's the stuff that it does. It knows some good standardized best practices for HTML production. It has a couple of rules in place for how it, deals with CSS and that type of thing. It has very specific directives for how to deal with stuff, design elements like cards or hero sections, things like that, calls to action, even navigation. The stuff that you're commonly going to find in web designs, the Claude design skill that's built into the model has some very specific commands for how to deal with this stuff. And when commands are very specific, and AI doesn't look at that and say, oh, I see, I get the vibe of this. I'm going to go riff on this and be super creative. That is not how it works. It ends up trying to apply those rules pretty rigorously, and then you get this sameness of outcomes. So once Claude spilled the beans to me on that, I had a light bulb go off. I'm like, oh my God, I see what I have to do. I have to create a skill, a design generation skill that behaves a lot more like a professional designer and that is specifically built to be principles first, not pattern first. Don't apply these patterns. Don't have these rules. Have these operating principles, and then apply these principles in a considered, measured way like a professional designer would do. That's easy enough to explain. It's pretty hard once you kind of start to break it down into its constituent parts. It's intense. It's a lot to kind of teach the AI. So I spent the last few days doing exactly that, building this design generation skill. And I'm going to walk you through the basics of it, and then we're going to test it. I have not tested it. So I just completed this thing basically this morning, the version 1 that's going to be able to do this. And I'm going to explain it all to you. And we're going to run it right here for the first time on the live stream. Hopefully I'm going to run it twice. And I want to talk about everything having to do with this. But first, I've got to do a couple things. So I built this skill. Okay, just some insight for people using Claude Code. I built the skill, and I said, okay, I built the skill, and I realized it's very coordinated. It's very, it's very much a follow these instructions. You reach these junctures, you make this kind of decision based on this criteria, or you make that kind of decision based on a different set of criteria. Whatever you've got, like here's your palette. And then you pick and choose the ingredients from the palette to apply for this particular design. So it's got a whole lot of directives in place there. What I mean by that is there's pretty specific instructions. You just got to follow the instructions. I don't need a super intelligence to run this thing. I just need a model that's capable. So I asked it, I said, do I really need to run like the latest model, Opus 4.7, on extra high effort when I run this skill? And it said, no, actually you don't. It said, you can use let's see, it says use Claude Opus 4.6 with standard effort. And you could even get away with Sonnet. He's like, but I think during the first couple stages of the skill, you'll probably want to use Opus 4.6 because there's a little bit of reasoning involved. I'm like, oh, I love that. So it's even telling me how much compute I really need to run the skill, which I think is a pretty cool thing. So let me just get that started in a separate window, and I'll come back to this later. But I want to go ahead and get this thing ready. So let me see here. I know you guys can't see my screen yet. I'm going to open it up in just a little bit once I get this set up. So let me do this. Claude model. Claude Opus 4.6. I had the thing give me some instructions. All right, it says it opened as 4.6, but then right underneath that it says welcome to Opus 4.7 X High. So now I'm asking, like, can you confirm you're running Opus 4.6 instead of Opus 4.6 standard effort instead of Opus 4.7 X High? So we'll see what it says. I wanted to confirm what it's running. It says, yes, I'm running 4.6. Great job, Claude. Okay, now let's talk about the skill real quick before we get started. Can you give me a summary of the design generation skill and its parts? I'm sharing this stuff on a live stream and want to tell people about the skill. The AIs love being on camera. Oh, wait, I'm live? Tell them this. What do they think? All right, here we go. All right, so what does the skill do? This new skill, it generates a web design from scratch, the HTML templates, the CSS, and it also generates a document, a design notes document that gives the basics of the design. Like it will say like what the font pairings are, the color scheme for the design, the basic sizing, like what's the primary font size, maybe what the spacing units are. So the basic fundamental characteristics of the design go into a document. That way you'll have that. If you ever need to like send that off to another designer or to another AI later, you can do that. And so those are the deliverables. The HTML templates, the CSS that goes with it, possibly any JavaScript for behavioral stuff. And then and the idea is that this is a design generation. It is not specific to any platform. It's not specific to PageMotor. It's not specific to WordPress. It is platform agnostic. However, this skill is informed by a lot of the principles that govern the way PageMotor's design stuff works. There's something called the PageMotor design system. It's governed by the same principles. The idea is that the output from this design generation is going to be tailor-made for use in the design conversion skill, which takes any design and converts it into something that can be shipped into PageMotor through one single import file. And so this output is going to be tailor-made for that. So the design conversion skill for PageMotor, which is an amazing skill, is going to operate really easily with designs generated in this way. The idea really originally for this is that I wanted to minimize the amount of errors and corrections that were necessary when people would use the design conversion skill to move a design into PageMotor. The best way to address some of the problems is to make sure they don't happen in the design generation process. So I thought, okay, well, I definitely need a nice design generation skill to achieve that. And then once I got into it, I realized, oh, I see that we really need this for all AIs because there is no true professional design generation skill out there. It's involved. There's a lot of steps to it. And so that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm building that ultimate design generation skill. So it's informed by PageMotor, but it is not constrained by it. Output is simply, the goal of the output is to generate good web design based on web standards, the best principles of design and CSS and the way classes should be named, semantic class names, things like this. But there you go. So there are 4 orthogonal dimensions. This is fancy AI speak. There's 4 orthogonal dimensions of the skill. And what does that mean? Every generation, every design generation is a composition of 4 independent library choices. Okay. That means the skill looks at you say, hey, I want this kind of design. And the skill says, all right, there's 4 major things we need to consider here. The first one is motif. What is motif? Motif is the overall aesthetic feel of the resulting website. It's got some different types of aesthetic baselines built into the skill, and the skill will then choose from one of those. It'll say, oh, I think, this is the best, the Swiss version is the best fit for this site, or editorial magazine would be best, or digital brutalist. It's got names for all these things. The second thing it chooses, so first it figures out the vibe of the site. Like, what's the vibe? What's the aesthetic, the overall aesthetic principle that's guiding this thing. Second thing, palette archetype. That is your color strategy. This is based on a combination of existing color palettes, which are designed to serve as bases. We start with a base, and then we sprinkle on some unique details from there. The palette archetype with your branding color preferences. Usually good brands have either 1 or 2 colors associated with them. Sometimes more, but generally speaking, 1, 2 is more powerful for branding. So, so those branding colors get laid in there on the palette archetype, worked in, and the skill figures out like what's the best color presentation for your brand. Then we move on to typography pairing. There's a lot to typography. I can give you a real brief overview, and that is if you have something that is technical that you want to present as being easy to use or accessible, approachable, friendly, you're going to want to use a sans serif font for your primary text production. So like if you have an article, the body of your article is going to be presented in this sans serif font. It will seem more approachable. It will seem more lighthearted. It will seem easier to understand, that kind of thing. However, if you have a product that requires luxury positioning, or you want it to seem sophisticated, or you want to seem like academic and authoritative, then a serif font is a better choice for your primary copy. The skill looks at like what type of site you're saying you want to build, and it makes decisions about the typography based on that. There's also a third or 2 other classes of fonts: monotype fonts, which code, monospace fonts, which are code, and then fantasy fonts, which is a sweeping genre, but really any goofy, fun, super lighthearted, really playful fonts that go beyond just like something you would ever find in a normal book. So there's 4 different types, but there's really 2 main type considerations: serif versus sans serif, and how all those things should be presented based on the information you have given the skill about the type of site you want to build. And so it also it looks at it says, okay, this would be the best types of fonts for you, and then it creates an informed pairing, meaning like I'm going to use this font for headlines, and I'm going to use this font for my primary body copy. It's always going to use 2 fonts because that's going to be more. It's not always going to use 2 fonts. If you have a really simple design that's presented in brutalist format, it may only choose a single font because it might decide that's the most appropriate thing for you and your brand. But in most cases, it's going to select 2 fonts, one for your headings, one for your primary body copy, and it's going to pair those in a really smart way that fits your brand, your vibe, your aesthetic, the whole thing. The final consideration is the composition archetype, and that is structural layout logic, meaning like, are we going to have a hero image? Are we going to, is this a type of website that asks for a bunch of sections on a homepage? Is this just like more of like a brochure or a poster for like a band or something like that? Like what type of site composition is suitable for the design that's being requested? The current Claude Code design, or Claude design in general, really has a one-trick pony, has a single playbook that it applies in situations like this. You're going to get a hero section. You're going to get a couple of follow-up sections. You're going to get a call to action. Those things are going to be surrounded by a header and a footer. The navigation in the header is going to have internal links to the current page. So if you have internal pages of your site, the stuff in the original nav menu is not going to be appropriate. So it's got all these things that it does, that it repeats, that are really not the best things. We just kind of accept them for now. This composition archetype dimension of the design generation skill, considers those things, and tries to make appropriate choices for the type of website you are building. So here we go. And there's mix and match logic built in here that produces genuine variety. So we may have a defined base of 46 different flavors of all these things we could add. It's actually more than that. But from that base, if we mix and match those things, we can achieve, ideally, an infinite variety of outcomes. And I do want to point out, too, all the stuff in the skill is extensible. So it may start with a base, but if you're using this skill, you can add to that base at any time and expand it. So really, you can season it to taste as much as you like. That stuff will never be overwritten in skill updates. It's like you can kind of keep adding to this thing and augmenting it with your specific flavors. Like if you like to operate a certain way, or you have a specific sort of brand, way that you operate. Like I use this type of typography. I tend to use these types of color schemes. So this, you have your wheelhouse area where you like to operate. You can build that stuff into the skill. It's really easy to do. I've designed it that way from the ground up. So you can always operate how you want. That's important to me. So the skill itself has a 9-pass pipeline. The first one's called the intake and design brief. We do a little vibe interview in the beginning, which we're going to see. And you can also optionally provide a site specification, which we're going to look at that as well. So we can also do a site specification file. And this is something that's already, this file would contain lots of information about your brand. This is really the super professional way to do it. In the PageMotor beta, a user in there named Ken Jordan has shared something with the group called buildtheweb.site. It is a very interesting tool where you go take this intake interview that takes anywhere from 30 to 90 minutes, depending on how intense you want to get and how much information you can provide. And it looks at all that information about your business and about what you're trying to build, and it produces a whole bunch of assets for your business and that you would ultimately use to build your website. The most impressive thing it does, to me at least, is that it really defines a voice for your brand and builds really smart copy, like good website copy for you. It's amazing. It's a heck of a tool, buildtheweb.site. There's a cost associated with using it now. It has been free. It might still be free to PageMotor beta people if you go ask Ken nicely. But anyway, that skill, buildtheweb.site, that tool, produces a design specification file that can be fed into this design generation skill to make it better. You can get better results by doing that. If you don't have that, it'll just perform a simple vibe interview. It's still going to give you real good results, but that design spec file is really, really nice to have. The second thing, the second pass in the 9-pass pipeline, is design system selection. It selects fonts, color palette, GRT, golden ratio typography, scaling. So like what kind of font size is going to work is the basis. And it also verifies a minimum acceptable contrast in the color scheme to make sure that it achieves high usability for everyone and is also accessible for people with colorblind issues or other visual issues. It always seeks to achieve a minimum acceptable level of contrast so that everything, all the elements, any text, any supplemental text, links, so that links stand out. Supplemental text is always visible and super legible. That the smallest font size in use isn't too small, things like that. So good accessibility and approachability, good considerations there. Professional design type stuff. Next, we have template structure. So one of the weaknesses of using the Claude design tool, the native tool, is that it only is going to spit you out like a homepage. Well, a real web design consists of a lot more than just a homepage. At minimum, a real web design is going to have 2 templates, your homepage, and then a template for interior pages, at minimum. This skill is going to output at least that, but it's also going to try to suss out from you, like, are you going to need some custom templates or, other types of templates that are like endemic to the way your site works. It's going to try and figure that stuff out up front, and it will produce those as part of its output. So this skill is designed to produce more than the regular Claude design tool is ever going to do. Typically, well, you could get that out of the Claude design tool, but you have to expressly state it. The difference is that this skill is going to try and determine, based on a quick interview with you, are you going to need those additional assets? If so, we're going to go ahead and build them now. Then we got the CSS generation. There's a whole lot a whole lot of principles that go into that, but not worth talking about. It's going to generate the CSS to go with your design to make it all look the way it's supposed to look. HTML generation, same kind of deal. It creates design notes, design notes.md, a markdown file, as part of its deliverables. It documents all of the key decisions that it made when considering, okay, here's the type of design I want. And the skill is going to say, okay, well, here was all the important decisions I had to make. And this will come up later, but it's going to review those. And when it finishes the job, if you go back over your design and decide you don't like something, it's going to look at those critical decisions and say, okay, well, we could have gone this direction here. And hey, what about this? We could have gone this direction here. You want to try that? So it's gonna give you some opportunity to refine what it produces so you can really get to the right results. This is part of the skill I think is really, really cool. More on this in a little bit. And also, we'll see if it even works as designed when I run it. So we got verification. It runs every hard rule. There's a bunch of hard rules, like we must make sure we do this. There's a bunch of those in the skill. It runs a verification check to ensure that those rules have indeed been followed. Then there's a correction pass. If anything didn't pass verification, we go back through and make sure that that all gets cleaned up so we don't have stupid errors. And then the ninth pass, my favorite, I think right now, is the optional post-delivery interview. You can revisit fonts, colors, link styles, navigation selections, even copy and like sections that appear on your homepage or other templates. You can go revisit any of those critical decisions that have been made, and you can go another direction with those if you want. And the way it's built, the skill will actually present you with some options that you can view. It'll say, hey, I just generated this little HTML file for you. Open it up in your browser and take a look at the two options. Choose the one you like best. Really cool. Sort of what a real designer would do. You'd say, okay, I don't like this. And then you'd go through a round of reviews and you'd cook up a couple things to go show the client. And you say, all right, client, pick one of these two things. And they say, okay, I like option A. We'll go with that. That type of thing. Now the skill is going to do that on the fly in a post-delivery interview. A really cool step that I think this is the first time I've heard of such a thing with an AI skill, but post-delivery interview, this is going to become a thing everywhere, I imagine. It's just a good practice. Now, what makes this skill different? It's a vibe interview, not a multiple choice. Users describe the feel that they want, and then the skill makes a bunch of intelligent decisions based on that. It's got an anti-AI default stance. This is the whole thing about fighting the slop. We want to not do some basic things that, like, AI has these rules, like do this, do this, do this. We don't want to do that. We want to leave these things open-ended. We want to make decisions that are appropriate to the current project being delivered. No just AI, rubber stamping of patterns and things like that. Attention design is integrated from the start. So attention design is something I've been talking about since 2019. It is basically this idea that the way attention works on the internet has changed. We kind of still build websites based on the old modalities of attention, with like a primary column of content on the left and a sidebar out to the right. That does not serve the way attention works on the internet anymore. You have to think in terms of social media feeds, which are a single centered column. That's the only thing you ever look at, and you're constantly refreshing this thing. You are trained, whether you like it or not, to look and keep your attention solely focused on a central column of text. One column of text. Even introducing a second column and putting anything in there that you actually care about or that might be of interest to a potential visitor is giving them an opportunity to splinter their attention away from the main item on the page and put it on something else. When we do that, we are all trained now with this dopamine thing where we want to go back to the main thing that gives us the most dopamine rush. And unfortunately, that thing is a social media feed. It's not your website. So if your website does anything to divert off that path, people are just going to close it and go back to Twitter or whatever, because they're getting a much bigger rush of the content they want from that, from the Instagram feed, from wherever. They're not getting that from your website. So you don't want to work against that. There's a lot of other principles like that about attention design, stuff that informs navigation, stuff that informs internal linking within the current page, that kind of thing. There's a lot of secret sauce there for attention design. That's all baked into the skill as well. It's going to try and apply those principles to your unique situation as best it can. It's imbued with golden ratio typography. Brand color handling is intelligent. It uses these 30-something predefined color palettes as starting points, directional starting points, and then it will use your brand color and substitute it into various palettes as it makes sense, and then choose the best one that it thinks fits your brand based on the vibe that you've established in the interview. Font variety is enforced. I don't know if you notice, if you've created enough designs with AIs, there's pretty much a convergence on just a few fonts. They get favored, and Google Fonts library is enormous, but really just a few fonts get used in a vast majority of projects, unless you specify explicitly, like, I want to use something else. Well, most people don't know all the fonts that are available to them, and certainly can't be bothered to go figure all that stuff out. That's, why would they do that? This skill is explicitly designed to seek variety, to seek high usability and readability, and to do fresh font pairings. We don't want, if this thing generates 30 sites, we don't want 15 of them looking about the same. We want 30 unique looking sites. And then there's a, WCAG contrast, which is like a sort of a standards thing for contrast, for accessibility, visual impairment, things like that. That stuff is verified at the palette level before any work is done. So you're going to get, accessible results from the skill. So there we go. That's how it works. Let's get some action. So I've got a site specification file, like I talked about, from Ken's buildtheweb.site skill, and we can look at that. Let me share my screen here. But I think it might be even better to do this. Since this is about fighting AI slop, a website my wife has built for her new startup. It's called Sales Up Level. This comp, which I think is good, this is running on PageMotor, by the way. This was created through a combination of Ken's buildtheweb.site and also just using Claude's design skill. And it uses a lot of the patterns that we see in Claude. Okay, I'll go through them. Number one, it's got the navigation menu with internal links to the current page. If we were to go to an internal page on the site, which I don't think I can even do right now, this navigation menu would not be relevant to that page. So I'd have to do something different on those pages. The skill didn't cover that for me, so I'd have to go in and add that explicitly. So that's not great. Not great. Like I said, we've got the hero section here. We've got a beacon on top of the hero section. We got the 2-button dichotomy thing that we often see. Like, I feel like this is really standard AI output. We got this button here in the upper right of the heading, or the header, pardon. We got a social proof section, which I like this. I don't see this in all the designs that get spit out from Claude, but this is cool. It's not like this whole thing is bad. It's just there's a lot of elements that are repeated in AI generated designs. And so we're kind of, we got this sort of 2-column construction, which you often see. As a general rule, a 2-column construction is nice on a page like this. You're creating some contrast. You've got some asymmetry. We got centered. We've got 4 across. We've got 2 across. Okay, that's good. That's a good cadence to the design. But then when we get over here in this right-hand column, we've got like these little these icons, and then some little modules with information. Like, that's a repeated design pattern in AI. Might be nice to see that handled a little bit differently. I'd like to see a little more variety there. This section is very, very generic these days. We've got the emoji inside a little box, a little headline underneath, and then some information. As a basic design pattern that works, but now that we see it everywhere, it's sort of annoying. Also, these little mini headers above headings. Now, disclaimer, I'm not sure that the skill that I have just built is going to address problems on this granular of a level. I haven't gone through and said, okay, well, I hate this pattern. Not that I hate this pattern. I just don't want you to use this pattern every time. I'm not yet to that level of specificity. The skill is probably thousands of lines of code long already, but there's a lot of detail that goes into this. So like I'm going to have to undo a lot of these things, or at least teach it how to break free of some of these pre-existing molds. We got another one here. We got a little timeline. It actually pulled this off differently than I've seen in other AI generated designs. So I don't hate this. I don't, like I said, I don't hate this. It's pretty nice. I actually like this section a lot. Looks good. I can tell it's AI done, but it works. We got this section. I've seen this before in different ways. I like the execution here, but again, it's definitely an AI pattern. This one really stands out. Whenever you have a section for identifying customer avatars, they use these X's and say like, who this is not. And then these are called tags. These little pills. You see a lot of these used in different ways. Got a block quote here. We often see on certain elements like this little use of this border on one side. Like this purple one's generic enough that it works, but I can tell it's AI when it's rounded. When it's rounded for some reason, it just stands out to me. I like this. This little pricing thing is executed well. Looks good to me. I don't, I don't have any gripes about that. Here's some question and answer. Again, here's the call to action at the bottom. There's some pretty obvious design patterns that are in there that are AI design patterns. So can we fight this off? So what I'll do is I'll try to run this skill in 2 different ways. And it may not work out with the timing for us, guys. I don't know. But I have some other stuff to talk about while it's generating. So we're going to run this a couple different ways. And we're going to see if the design generation skill can beat this, or at least give us something that seems a little less like, a little less like AI slop, a little less patternized. I want something a little fresher. Can we get something fresher than this? So let's go over here to our little Claude code window here. We got this. Yeah, we got this. So this is so I opened a new session running Opus 4.6 because the skill, Claude code told me the skill is going to run just fine like this, and we won't waste tokens. I want to make sure we don't hit context limits during the show. So what the heck? We're going to run 4.6 and let's crank it. So let's run the design generation skill for a new site called Sales Up Level. And let's see what it does. I intentionally gave it pretty much nothing there. And I could have used a command, this one, PageMotor design, to do that, to initiate the skill. But I'm a noob, so I didn't think to do that. All right, here we go. I've loaded the design conversion skill. Before I begin the 7-pass pipeline, I'm going to bump the font up so you guys can see it a little better. I need a few things from you. Source design. Do you have a source design? HTML files, a URL, or a pasted URL for the design? Multiple pages equals multiple templates. For the purpose of this, I'm going to say no. No source design. I know I need a homepage. Oh, my Lord. Homepage and internal pages, basic pages. I might need more than that. I don't know. Can we figure that out? Destination theme for PageMotor. So it says, what's the PageMotor theme this is going to be imported into? Destination theme will be blank slate. Content layout mode. What kind of content? So this is a question that's going to ask you before you get started. It's saying, do you want the content to be centered, or do you want, like your pages, if you have page content, to be left aligned with the left side visual anchor? Default is centered. We want a centered layout here. And then any special requirements, custom content types, specific template names. I don't know. Hopefully we can figure these out in the interview. I actually don't like the way this is going so far. I'm very skeptical. So we'll see. I told it I don't know the answers to some of this stuff. Hopefully we can figure this out in an interview. I don't know why it's asking for a design. Like this is a design generation tool. So this is all stuff that I'm going to go back and review after the show with the skill. I'm going to say, well, here's what you did. Here's what my expectations were. What are we doing here? It'll say, oh, I see. That's a good point. We'll refactor. So it's showing the task. I do like this. It says it's exploring project context, offering visual companion. It's going to offer a visual companion. Interesting. We'll see what that is. Might be something for us to look at. Oh, Lord. No. What are we doing here? You aren't going to touch PageMotor files. You just need to know the... Oh, crap. Okay. This is doing the wrong thing. Lord have mercy. This is all wrong. It's running the design conversion skill, not the design generation skill. So everything I said is invalid. Great. Well, that's what happens when you run this stuff live. Give me a break. Maybe I should have used Opus 4.7. All right, so it's reading the generation contract and the supporting docs to run this thing properly. All right, it says, here we go. This is a design generation skill. It creates original designs from scratch through a Vibe interview and then generates HTML, CSS, and design notes. Let's start pass one properly. Okay, now I need to understand the site itself. Here's my first question. What is Sales Up Level? Tell me in a few sentences. Sales Up Level is a new startup designed to serve as a training gym for salespeople who want to learn to incorporate AI in their workflow. The idea is they will become indispensable by leveling up their AI skills to use for sales leverage, whatever. Is it a coaching bit? What's the tone? Is it a coaching business, a SaaS tool, community, course platform, or consultancy? I think I've already got that. The target audience, for now at least, is salespeople looking to improve themselves and their job prospects. We'll just go with that. Simple enough. So it's chewing on this, and then it'll probably come back with some more questions. All right, good. It's a training platform for salespeople who want to become AI augmented and indispensable. Practical, aspirational, career forward. What should the site feel like? Think about the vibe you're going for. References to real brands, publications, or sites are especially helpful. Some directions I could see fitting. High performance athletic. So it's giving me some suggestions. High performance athletic, like a Nike training app or Peloton. Intensity, progress, leveling up. Sharp or professional, like Bloomberg or HBR. Authority, credibility, executive feel. Modern or tech forward, like a Linear or a Vercel. Clean, precise, builder energy. Energetic and motivational, like Gary Vee or Hormozy. Bold, direct, action oriented. What resonates with the brand you're building? I like the high performance athletic association. This is a training platform via an app for sales professionals who will have their progress measured and be able to see progress improvements on an actual scale. They receive grades based on their AI competence level and can keep improving all the time. So I do like that kind of that Nike fitness app, training app sort of feel, Peloton feel. That's cool because the users of this platform, they get an app and then they go through and they have different modules, and every time they complete a module, they're leveling up. So I want some feedback there, some gamified feedback provide feedback that makes you want to keep improving. Also, I think it needs hints of both modern tech forward, because we do want it to be kind of aligned with AI. We want the salespeople who look at the site to be, vibing in that way, and also energetic as the whole venture is about self-improvement. So we'll see what it does with this information. Again, this is not end of the world stuff. This is just a dry run to see what the skill is going to do for us. So it's chewing on this. So real quick, when the skill can also accept a specifications document on the way in instead of doing this interview. That specifications document could contain like all this, basically what we're getting at here. It could contain all that information. The real benefit of that is that the copy that the web design that this thing is going to create is going to be more like ready for battle, ready for use right away than this. This is really about creating a design and figuring out the vibe of the design. But a design is sort of nothing on its own. Like what's in the design, what do the words on the page say, what are the visuals, all that stuff. That's actually the meat. And so I just want to make it clear that meat is the most important thing. And having a design specification file, such as the thing you get through Ken Jordan's buildtheweb.site, that is really the super valuable piece of information. This is an attempt to take something like that and wrap it up in the best possible package. But in the absence of such a file, this onboarding vibe interview is attempting to capture as much of that as possible so that the resulting copy that we get in our design is not a bunch of lorem ipsum nonsense, and it's actually something germane to your brand and hopefully can tell your story in a way that is meaningful and actually worth something. All right, so Claude says that's a strong picture. Training gym, gamified progress, measurable improvement, self-driven professionals leveling up. The athletic framing with tech modern undertones gives me a clear direction. I'm thinking bold, high contrast, and kinetic, something that feels like a scoreboard or a performance dashboard rather than a corporate brochure. Dark background with punchy accent colors. Think the energy of a dark mode fitness app. Strong typographic hierarchy that hits hard, and a composition that creates forward momentum on the page. Based on what you've described, I'm leaning towards a digital brutalist motif. Bold, unapologetic, high energy, paired with something that communicates precision and measurement. The grading progress angle, not raw punk brutalist, but the refined end. Think high performance interface meets motivational poster. Does that direction resonate, or would you put it warmer or softer in any way? I'm going to say, well, look, digital brutalist doesn't really mean anything to me. But if you think that vibe fits, let's roll with it. You sound confident. LOL, they always do. This is more of an elite performance lab situation. I think that's kind of funny. I might have to teach this thing not to use those like digital realist. What the hell does that mean? I like that the skill feels like, oh yeah, if you just survey the entire internet, you'd come away thinking that this particular style is digital brutalist. Okay, buddy. I'm in this space and that doesn't mean anything to me. I mean, it kind of does, but not really. All right, good. Elite Performance Lab it is. Now I have a clear read on the motif's character. One thing I'll note, pure digital brutalist leans raw, terminal, honest, but your Elite Performance Lab energy calls for the refined end of that spectrum. Bold contrast, visible structure, sharp typography, but with the precision of a performance dashboard rather than the rawness of a dev blog. That's what I'll aim for. Great. Do you have any brand colors for sales up level? Yes, a primary color you want associated with the brand, something that would show up on buttons, progress indicators, key CTAs. If you don't have one locked in yet, I can propose options that fit in the high performance tech forward energy. Yes, we want to go with a high energy purple. I'm thinking like a neon style purple that shows up well on a darker background based on everything this thing has said. I don't know that we actually want a dark mode thing here, but we can cross that bridge when we get to it. Also, in the post interview, you can go back and say, well, look, I mean, this dark mode's great, but I want to make sure we offer light mode as well. It'll go back in and massage the design with that stuff. High energy purple, great choice. Signals ambition, intelligence, and intensity. Fits the level up your brain positioning perfectly. I'll work with something in the vivid purple range. Think electric violet, not muted lavender, and slot it into the accent role. Next question. Is this site the marketing landing site that sells people in joining the platform, or is it the app itself? This is the public-facing site that acts as an uptake and lead gen. Lead gen and signups, marketing site. This clarifies the template needs and navigation approach. How should navigation work across the site? I alluded to this earlier. It's really wants to make sure we get the navigation right, which I think is an important thing to do in any design. It doesn't get enough. It's not talked about enough, but the navigation choices are absolutely critical, especially in the era of waning attention and social media feeds. So it says, how should navigation work across the site? Here's your three options. Attention focused. Homepage gets the full nav. Interior pages use breadcrumbs instead. This keeps the homepage as a selling machine and interior pages focused on their content. It works well for content forward sites. That's what we're going to do here, but we'll read the rest. A universal nav, same navigation on every page. Users always have access to all sections. Works well for sites where people jump between pages frequently. Or option C, something specific that you have in mind. It says I recommend A for this situation. And I say, I think we go with A. It's going to keep interior pages really simplified. I can imagine this brand rolling out like a newsletter sign up page or in other landing type pages that they're going to send an email out to these sales candidates. And then they're going to send them to one of these landing pages. We want that page to be very action focused. We don't want a bunch of navigation options on there. So this seems like the right decision for this business. What pages do you think the site needs beyond the home and a basic page template? Here are some that might make sense for a lead gen training platform. A landing page, a stripped down focused conversion page with no nav, no footer, just the pitch and a sign up form. Useful for paid traffic or specific campaigns. I feel like I just said this. The About Founder story builds trust and credibility behind the platform, pricing and plans. I love the three suggestions. Only other one I'd add is a custom template specifically for email signups. So it's set. We're going to do 4 types of templates: home page, landing page, and newsletter. Great. That's a solid set for launch. One last question, and I'm going through that quickly, but actually like the templates that get generated in a source design like this, it's actually quite important because when you feed this stuff into a design conversion skill like that for PageMotor after the fact, it's going to create all the templates and all the other supplemental information, the technical stuff you need to make that stuff just work. If you start with that and feed that to the design conversion skill, it's going to do a great job with that. You're going to get a comprehensive result. It's going to be everything you need. If you don't have that, then the design conversion skill can't be nearly as useful and won't do as much heavy lifting for you. So you want to make sure you've got these assets defined before you get to that phase, because when you do get to that phase, it's going to be it's going to be a lot more valuable result when you use it. One last question. Does Sales Up Level have a hero moment on the homepage? Meaning, should the first thing visitors see be a big, bold statement with a CTA? Or should it start by building the case immediately with content sections, problem, solution, proof, action? It says it's leaning towards a bold hero. I think we need a hero section. Right now, the idea is that there will be a quiz salespeople can take to determine their current AI competence level. We want people to take that quiz, become curious, and then be fed into the email correspondence loop. All right, I got it all. Let me summarize what we're doing. It's a marketing lead gen site for an AI training platform for salespeople. The audience, the tone is elite performance lab, bold, high energy, precision measured. The motif performance dashboard, not raw punk. The brand color is high energy, vivid purple. Attention focused home, breadcrumbs. Hero, yes. Templates, home page, landing page, newsletter. The core funnel is to send people to a to generate curiosity and get them into an email feedback loop. Says that's all good, looks great. So while this thing's doing its next step, I'm going to show you something, maybe. Let me see if I can just do it here. We got these renderings. So obviously I talked about the digital brutalist thing. Like, what the hell is that? Well, what the hell is that? So I'm going to share this for just a moment. So basic color palettes that exist in the skill. Okay? It's got a bunch of these things. Like 30 or something. Whatever. It's going to choose one of these as the basis. And then it's going to sprinkle on your branding color to try and match the vibe that has been established in the interview. So I'm going to look at this. We'll see what digital brutalist is. Oh, okay, interesting. So, wow. Okay, I didn't know this. Digital brutalist is not a specific palette. It's part of this family of palettes called monochrome plus signal accent. The core for this one is the Swiss red. You may recognize this as being the primary base palette for the Focus WordPress theme, which I've been selling since 2019. It's a very stripped down, simplified, attention first sort of design, and it uses basically this exact color palette. And then we have international green. It's like the Swiss one, just with green. We got this brutalist neon, which is dark mode by default. I think this is what it's going to use, but with a neon purple instead of the neon green, or possibly it will add one more color to this palette and add the purple to the green, because the green actually kind of is a hot color for a scoreboard. It's actually cool, but it's like neon light color that would be useful on a scoreboard. It contrasts well with the purple. So we'll see what this thing ultimately does. If it keeps the green with the purple, I think that would be complementary and that would be a nice selection. But again, we'll see what it does. It's also got a bunch of different link styles. It deploys different link styles depending on the design motif. So kind of cool, but it's fun to look at these. I had the skill output these so I could review them. I wanted to see, I'm like, you can tell me about it all you want. It doesn't mean anything to me until I can see it. The text that's shown with each sample uses all the colors from the current palette and also the link behaviors as currently defined. I think that's pretty cool. Some obviously have a lot of colors. Some don't have many colors. It depends on the design that we're talking about, like what is going to suit the brand. And these are all designed for like hitting vibes, to capture vibes. Pretty cool. Anyhow, killing that, going back to our Claude window. Is this it? Looks like it's it. Yeah, this is it. All right, so let's see what it did. All right, starting pass 2, system design selection. Let me do all this. I read through it, figured it out. I selected our colors. So it did not substitute the green. It didn't keep the green. It substituted purple completely. Might have some feedback on that at the end. It's chosen a monospaced font for the headlines to indicate technical precision and scoreboard energy. For the body, it's chosen a font called Barlow. It's slightly narrow, geometric, grotesque. It's efficient, contemporary, and professional. It's going to use the 400, 400 italic, and 700 weights. And also one called, the cultural signal is that the sans body, the Barlow sans serif font in the body conveys technical practical, and contemporary vibes, and it matches the tone of the business or the desired feel. The composition that's going to be used on the page is a grid and information dense style. The home page presents features, metrics, and progression like a performance dashboard rather than a conventional marketing scroll. Okay, I'm here for it. The other design that we looked at that she currently has for the Sales Up Level website is not like that. It's more of a marketing scroll site. So it'll be interesting to check the contrast here when this is done. The link style is classical underline. It's honest underline purple links. There's nothing fancy there. No fancy design stuff. Clean, simple. The layout is centered. The content's going to be centered. The grid sections are centered on the viewport like a dashboard display. The GRT scale uses 18 pixels as a base. That's great. All right, so I noticed an error. It tells me what the spacing is going to be for GRT spacing, and the values that it provides are not right. You would never know this, but I know this, so I'm going to go ahead and mention that now. I noticed that the GRT X1 through X6 spacing values are not correct for a base font size of 18 pixels. I don't know if that matters right now, but I just wanted to point it out because the wrong values will affect the final design. All right, it says this gives you a dark, high contrast scoreboard feel with purple as the singular signal color used with discipline on CTAs, links, progress indicators, and key moments. Everything else is monochrome. Does this direction feel right before I start generating the actual HTML CSS? The overall direction feels right. Let's run it. I don't know if that direction is right. I don't know if we need a secondary accent color. I think the other design does not have that. Doesn't have anything. No, it's all purple. No, we'll run it. We'll see what happens. It uses orange a little bit. The other one uses orange a little bit. This one, my gut tells me that this one will be too rigid and won't use any other accent colors at all. I remember prompting at some point to say, hey, be kind of cool here. Use bright, exciting accent colors for elements like buttons and stuff like that, as makes sense to do so, but be restrained. But kind of based on the way this has unfolded over the last 2 days, I feel like it may rigidly adhere to what it has selected. We don't know till we run it. So we'll see. My instincts may be wrong. So it's now, it says, yeah, the spacing was off. Let's check the GRT calculator API to see what those values ought to be. Again, you wouldn't have known to do that. It's okay. I'll have to, like I said, I'll revisit the skill after. This is the first run of the skill ever. I'll revisit the skill after, and I'll be refining this thing all the freaking time. But I'll revisit the skill after the show here and add notes about stuff like this. Obviously, I never want you having to do stuff like this. I want it to just work. Let me ask you some simple questions about your business, capture the vibe, and start rocking with this thing. There we go. That's correct. It got it. So the first thing it's doing is initializing the new output folder. This skill is going to create a folder in your Claude Code project directory, wherever you ran the Claude Code. And it's going to, create a new folder for this particular project. And it's going to stick a bunch of assets inside that folder. The most important assets are going to be the HTML files for the project that it generates that are your design. And then it also creates that design specs document or whatever that gives you information about the design. Like, here's the fonts, here's the colors, here's the sizing, probably some other stuff. We'll see. Now it's generating the CSS. I don't know how it's generating the CSS before the templates. That seems totally backwards to me, but I'll ask the skill about that after the show. I'll try to suss out the logic there. It's probably got some reason for doing that. My brain doesn't work that way, so I'm a little skeptical, but we'll see. It might be adding the CSS now for, because it knows the typography selections are this, the color selections are that. It knows what the basic elements of the design are going to be. So it might be able to, spec all that out beforehand before generating the HTML because it already knows where it wants to go. And it notes generating the CSS is the heaviest pass. This is the heaviest, fattest part of the skill. This will take the longest, and this is the most compute intensive thing. Oh, I'll write the complete style sheet with all GRT variables, formatting primitives, which is like stuff that, okay, if you're going to generate a web design at all, you got to cover these bases at least, or else the design's really not that useful. So that's what that means, the formatting primitives, template sections, and the responsive rules. This skill has some responsive treatments baked into it. It knows that it is supposed to take that stuff very seriously and consider that like a design first, a first consideration with the design. We don't want it generating a design that doesn't handle responsive stuff, and then you turn this into an actual working design on PageMotor, and lo and behold, you've got all these responsive breaks. Also, the conversion skill does a double check on that sort of thing and applies a ton of rules to say, okay, well, we know this will work, this won't work, let's fix that kind of thing. So the dual pack, even though this is designed to be a design generator where you don't need PageMotor at all, the package, the two-part process of using this to generate a design and then using the PageMotor design conversion skill to convert that into a PageMotor design, that is a super powerful combination that is absolutely going to give you the best results. For now, this skill is only going to be available to PageMotor beta participants. The future of this skill, though, is that this will be publicly available at some point. I don't know when. Once it's really good, I want the entire world to be able to benefit from better design generation. Selfishly, I like that this skill is imbued with a lot of the same principles that inform PageMotor and that really, inform everything I do. There's a lot of my working principles embedded in this thing. I think they're good. They're good, solid principles. So selfishly, I like that will be proliferated through a skill like this. Okay, it's already done with the styles. Now generating the HTML templates. Honestly, I think the speed of this is pretty good in terms of actual computational time. I'm impressed so far. It's dispatching separate agents to create the templates. Index.html and page.html. It's determined that those are the two biggest files. And then it's going to write landing HTML and newsletter.html. This is pass 5 already. We're jamming through this thing. Remember, there are 9 total passes. The 9th step is actually optional. I think we may not do that on this one. In the interest of time, we're already over an hour here. Thanks for sticking with me. I do think this is a very interesting topic. One thing I want to address is skepticism about AI, right? I think some of the skepticism is warranted, especially when we see a lot of AI slop. The more of that we see, the more we see people call that out, the less confident we are in technology like this. And I want to make it crystal clear, and this is the purpose of the video, is that all this stuff is a skill issue. And more than that, skills are sensitive. They're very difficult to build because of the level of detail that really is involved. Like humans doing really good work. Like if we talk about a design agency that everybody says does amazing work, well, the reality is they're making a ton of micro decisions about how to handle a project. They are imbuing those decisions with years and years of lived working experience. They understand the principles, the guiding principles about what they do. And those principles generally dip into quite a few different areas. You've got typography principles. You've got HTML web standards principles. You've got good CSS design principles, CSS naming conventions. Those affect the HTML. There's a lot of crosstalk there between those two things. Like you need a lot of working experience to be able to navigate these situations properly. You've got the navigation considerations. You understand human behavior. You understand the user experience. You understand the way UIs need to be built so they're not confusing. There's a lot that goes into these things. And so to hand wave the entire ecosystem and say, well, AI is producing slop only tells me that you don't understand what you're working with. You don't understand the technology. You don't understand where it's at. You don't understand where it's possible to go, and you're just kind of a doom pillar. But anyhow, the reality is skills like the one I'm showing you here that is being run at the moment, this is what needs to be built to break free from this AI slop era, this little trough in the graph where we find ourselves. We're here, we're confident about AI, everybody's loving it, and then we have this little dip. Malcolm Gladwell describes the dip, and people get bummed out during the dip. They leave, they peace out, they've had enough. They wash their hands of this, and then after the dip, we have the meteoric rise to where this thing becomes a rock star. The only way we're going to get out of the dip and onto that upward trajectory is through building skills like this. And frankly, I'm not seeing a lot of people focusing on this type of thing. I want to draw your attention to this because this is where the gains are. I am building the PageMotor software and have been for 18 months. And it's great, but it is merely foundational. It is not the thing anymore. The thing, so PageMotor software, right? Well, I got news for you. Software is and always has been just a tool. It's just a tool. It's like me, it's a set of tools in this case. So PageMotor is sort of like a toolbox. And I'm a worker. I carry this toolbox around and I set it down somewhere. Well, that's great. It's still just a toolbox. What do I care? Why does this toolbox matter? Well, this toolbox matters because it enables me to create something great, but the toolbox itself is not this great thing. The skills is the equivalent of me taking this toolbox and building you a masterpiece. That's what is magical about the skills. That's why skills are the thing now. You won't pay for software in the future. You won't pay for software like PageMotor. You will pay for the skills because you are paying for the ability to create magic with the tools. The skills are the ability to create magic with some foundation of tools. Software is now tools. Skills are the action of creating magic with the tools. So if you are paying attention to AI stuff, AI developments, and the people you are listening to are not going off about skills and the importance of skills and how this is the area where the expansion is going to occur, those people don't really get it. Maybe you should start listening to people who do get it. I don't know where they are. Might be one right here, though. Anyhow, we are now verifying output in pass 7. So we've already created everything. Now we're going back through and saying, did we do it all the right way? Have we followed all the rules? Have we hit all the standards? Is this up to a professional design standard that this skill seeks to uphold? The idea is that this skill that I'm showing you, this design generation skill, is as good. I want it to be ultimately it will be better than the greatest design firm that's ever existed. If you thought Pentagram in New York delivered the best thing, if you thought Megara Jesse delivered the best advertising campaigns with Shiner Beer and all their other media things that they cover for their clients, if you thought those were the best firms, I want this skill to exceed the work that they do on every basis for now, other than new image generation, new branding imagery generation. Like they created the actual logo for your brand and the whole branding motif around that, like the brand package. That's still incredible, and that's the domain of these high-end companies. But as far as the tech deliverables that go with that, websites, putting together these processes and all that stuff, this skill is going to be the standard for this. It will be able to operate and perform at a level that exceeds even the best design firms. I don't expect it to be there yet, but the potential is certainly there. And like I said, it is 100% extensible. You don't like those initial color palettes I showed you? You've got your own ideas. All you do is add one JSON file to the skill, and it says, okay, we'll augment this. Here's the extra color schemes that you just added with this JSON file. You don't like the navigation behaviors? You can define your own. It's got 7 of them baked in, but you want your links to behave like this? You can define as many of those as you want and add those to the skill. It's very easy. You can even have Claude Code write you the file to add them to the skill. Like I said, it's very easy. And so anything that you might have a preference on can be added to the skill in that way. So you're not limited by anything that you see here. I think that's sort of the genius of this. I mentioned that the software that we're used to using is now a toolbox. There's various toolboxes out there, but those are toolboxes. And the skills are the acts of using those tools. But the skills themselves are software as well. They absolutely are. It's a new layer for software, though. But the same design principles that make the toolbox software great are the exact same principles that make the skills great, or that will make the skills great. So if you like the way I build PageMotor, if you love that extensibility, the interoperability, if you like how everything is super fast, super lightweight, super flexible, always able to be have your preferences thrust upon it, like however you like to operate. If you like that stuff and appreciate that kind of architectural thinking, you will love the skills that I am building around this, because they are imbued with the exact same architectural ethos. If you know how to build in one arena, you're going to go to a different arena. You still know how to build, right? Like, I've been messing with these skills for a little while now. I just, as I'm building them, like I'm going to be so good at this. I'm going to be so good at this. My skills are going to rock. I promise. You have my guarantee, because it's just the same as building any other kind of software. There's no magic to it. You apply the same principles. If you are truly principled, you have principles here, you have principles there, you're applying them all over the place. That's how it works. Found 3 failures, corrected those 3 failures, fixed a contrast issue. Some black was too dark. Added some image placeholders for accessibility. Fixed some HTML hierarchy on the landing page. Better SEO, whatever. Doesn't really matter, but kind of does. Standard CSS doesn't support variable in media queries. Is that true? I don't think that's true. All right, delivery summary, it's done. Open any HTML file in a browser to preview. Wow, that wasn't that bad. 14 minutes and 23 seconds for the total cooking of the design after the Vibe interview. I'm actually happy about this. I mean, considering the level of detail that we're talking about, much more detailed than your typical like CLUD UI based design generation. We solved a lot more intricate problems. We did a lot more specific treatments relative to the brand and the vibe that we want established. We're generating more templates than that would normally do. We're making decisions that go beyond these AI slop patterns that already exist. So let's look at what we got. And then it's asking me if I want to do the post-round review. I do not. Where is this? This is in projects, PageMotor output. What a stupid folder name. I'll have to talk about that. All right, so let's open this in Google Chrome. Drum roll, please. We're going to move it over here. Wow, okay. Hey, something to look at here. Ready for the reveal, gang. All right, here it is. Your AI sales score is waiting. Most people think they're using AI. They're not. Not effectively. 3 minutes and 1 quiz will show you exactly where you stand, what's holding you back, and what to fix first. All right, I noticed some things. I hate this button behavior. So I would go over that. When I mouse over this one, the bottom border disappears. This text down here, supplemental text, is not high contrast enough. You wouldn't even see it. Probably can barely see that on the screen there. So far, not great. I'd like to see a little more of a contrast between these sections. Like this is super dark. This is still pretty dark. I can barely tell the difference. I do like, this is that same sort of thing, but they didn't use the emoji, so it doesn't look super AI patternized, but it's not using emojis. 4 steps, real results, 01, 02, 03, 04. Again, that text is so dark, you almost don't see it. I do see how it handled the sizing, and I like it. I like what it did about that. It's a little bit better than how it works. Features. These are, nope, those are internal links. Honestly, I think it's done a shit job. But anyway, we'll keep going. Built for performance. It's got sort of more technical icons used here, like a different way of doing it. I like that this diverges from the rectangular thing with the emoji inside playbook. I like that, but still spiritually, it feels about the same. From reps who tested it, it's got some fake social proof thrown in here. Find out where you stand, take the quiz. I don't know. I'm a little disappointed. I'm disappointed with this. Some of the decisions are interesting. I think the font pairing is sort of interesting. Let's see what this font is. Is this pairing? I like that. I like how this hero section, I told it what the funnel I wanted was, and it didn't do the reflexive 2-button pattern. It just did a single button because this is the action we want people to take. That's actually quite positive. So I do want to give credit where it's due. I already doom pilled, but that's actually good. That's a pattern break for sure. It didn't use the emoji. That's also a pattern break from the AI slop. But like I said, spiritually, it kind of did the same thing. We've got a 3 across presentation here. Looks like the copy's actually okay. Your competitors are pulling ahead. Fear, whatever. AI is the new performance gap in sales. The reps who know how to use it are closing faster, prospecting smarter, and working half the hours. The ones who don't are getting left behind, and most of them don't even know it yet. I threw some figures out there. 4 steps, real results, no fluff, no theory. Direct line from where you are to where you need to be with proof at every stage. So I want to point out, like I showed you the initial site. This had specific things that Olga wanted to include in here. So I think she wanted the sales levels, and then also the the pricing sign up area. I specifically did not mention the pricing sign up thing, which obviously this visually is a striking feature and a very cool part of this page. I did not mention that I wanted that on here, so it didn't put it on there. It's something we could add in the post-round interview if we wanted. Just want to point that out. It was not a failure of the skill. That was something I did not specify. Let's see what we got here. I'm not going to read every bit of this. We got to take the quiz, get your score, train the gaps, level up, stepwise path for people to follow. Here's what you can expect, basically. Here's some social proof and find out where you stand. So it is a simpler page overall. Fewer sections. That's a good break. The reflexive pattern from the AI has been to have seven different sections on the homepage. This has hero, fear, 2, 3 stepwise, 4, 5, 6. So it feels lighter to me. It has fewer sections. All right, let's review the other templates though. That's not all it did. I forgot. Let's look at the other ones. Let's look at the page template. So here it is. So it's got the breadcrumb. This is executed properly. The breadcrumb could have been presented in the main header. That would have been a little better. So these styles that it used, this is a call out. This is some of the stuff that is the formatting primitives that I mentioned earlier. It already has these. This is actually executed quite well. I like the way this is, the 8-minute read. Like this is good. This is super, super solid. Oh, this is an AI. This is like a placeholder for an image later. It's showing like an image with a caption. What does that look like? That's really nice. That's really nice. What is this? Is this a pre-formatted code? That looks good. What is this? This is a note, I'm guessing. It's the branding. Yep. This one was an alert. These are cool. This is another block quote. I like this. Okay, this is an impressive page. Considering that this is an internal thing, so like we've got the homepage, this design also includes all of this. This is very valuable, and this is not something the basic Claude design skill is going to be putting out there. I've got some stuff on here I want to fix. These buttons are crazy. Like, what the hell is all this? Save as template, update, save draft. I don't know what all that is. It doesn't really matter, but that's interesting. Oh, it's sort of hallucinated here and tried to figure out like what's something we could get a prospect to take action on to get them engaged. Interesting that it tried that. I don't hate it. Let's move on to the landing page. That was impressive though. That page was impressive. I had the right tab showing last time, guys. Nobody said anything in the chat. Here's your landing page. Just says, what's your AI sales score? Tells you a little bit about it. So you can take the quiz. two calls to action to take the quiz. This is actually an interesting strategy, and I think there's some value here. Because what we know is that when people are not sure they want to take an action immediately on a page, they'll either leave or seek out distractions on the current page. This page provides the distractions, supplemental information, and then gives the prospect one more chance to take the desired action on the page. There's nothing else you can do. There are no other outbound links. So the user literally has to close the window or hit the back button to not take the action here. This is actually pretty well done. You should take some notes. Again, this text is not dark enough or not light enough. All right, last thing. I like that too. I like that. There's some good stuff here. I doomed originally, but now I'm getting turned on these interior pages. These are nice. And then we've got our last one, the newsletter sign up page. This is really well done. I like this. I haven't quite seen this design motif used before on newsletter sign up pages that AI has generated. This I would deem to be relatively fresh. I like it. I like it. Got some reasons to join here underneath. Again, no getting around it. You're all in on this. This is great. All in on that. So while I got you here, we might as well do the little post-round interview because I got some stuff that I was beefing about. All right, you want to? I can generate a preview file showing you variants rendered in your project's actual palette and fonts. Otherwise, just open the files in the browser and let me know what you think. So give me options here about how to proceed. I do think that's cool. I'm gonna say I want to provide some feedback. Number one, first feedback is the gray supplemental text found on the home page and other templates is too dark and almost impossible to read. I don't know which one it is. I'm just going to say that. I don't want to have to be super specific about this. We're going to go back to the home. Like, this is what I'm talking about. That is ridiculous. Text under the action button in the hero section. It appears in other places as well. If the CSS is done properly, that'd be an easy fix in one spot. To the main purple buttons lose their bottom border on hover. Is that intentional? I don't know if I like the buttons turning to black on hover either. I wish they got brighter. 3, the navigation is horrible. The skill said it would provide a nav on the home page and breadcrumbs on internal pages, but it failed the home page because it includes internal page links and not site links. That should never happen. I mean, I shouldn't be instructing the skill because I'm not actually training the skill here, but that's annoying to me. So when you exert a preference like this, I said there, that should never happen. The skill is going to write to a file called preferences.md, and it will consider this in all future times you run the skill. It'll say, oh, this user doesn't like when we do that, so don't do that. So that is pretty cool. You can talk back to the skill and be like, bro, never do that again. And it might even come back and ask me, hey, is this a standing preference you want for all time? Or is that something you just want for this particular project? It will try to figure out if you really like, are these your operating principles, or is this just your preference, your flavor for this project? The skill is going to do that, which is really, really nice. The more you use it, the better it's going to be for you. Let's see if there was anything else. Finally, I really like the internal pages, but I am not sold on the home page. I'm not going to say finally because I thought of one other thing here. I think the patterns on the home page reflect larger AI slop patterns. The only real difference is you didn't use emojis. I also should have mentioned that I wanted a pricing section. Let's see what that was. Our initial offering is a $25 a month founder rate for a limited time. Price goes up when we leave MVP stage. Members get all 9 workouts from day 1. 15 minutes of training a day is all you need, and it's applied to your real world deals. AI scoring and feedback on your work, streaks and progress tracking built in. I'm just trying to get it to recreate these bullet points. New workouts added all the time. Your sales AI fluency level gets tracked and you can watch it grow. And then 5, the form on the page template is crazy. I see what you were going for. The use of like 6 buttons. Unless you were just showing me the button colors available in the final design. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that. So remember, I showed you this. It's got all these buttons down here. Like, what the hell are these? I think why it did this is actually is showing me a sample of all the different types of buttons that I will get with this design once it's rolled out. So any good design is going to have a design system, which this skill does. And a design system also includes different types of buttons for you to use in various capacities around the site. Now, based on the contents of the homepage, we really only needed the purple button. That's the basic button for this design. But there's other buttons called an action button, a save button, an update button, and a delete button. And the skill has gone ahead and accounted for those things and put them into the final results, even if you're not going to use them. So it's giving you things that you're going to want or need, even though it is not, it didn't specify what's going on there, but that's what's happening there. So I like that. I like that. It's giving you a complete design, even though you only asked for a certain thing. A good design firm is going to give you a complete design and not just exactly what you've asked for and nothing out of scope. You don't even know all the stuff you need is the deal. But you do realize, oh, when I roll out this new landing page, I want 2 buttons and I want an orange one next to the purple one. Well, now you've got that built in. It's ready to use. So that's cool. That's cool. All right. So I gave you that feedback, 5 points, really 4 points, because I just complimented it on its showing me for those five different button styles, 5 button styles. That's cool. So we'll see what it does. What's the link? Oh, the link style was just basic. Did it even have a link here? Oh, it did a highlight. That highlight's terrible. I can barely tell. It's purple. I wish I'd noticed that. I could have put that in the note. Where is this thing? All right, we're sharing this tab. I mean, really, I like all the pages. I think the homepage sucks. It needs some visuals. It needs something in the background here. Like, could we not have made something cool on the hero section? I'm gonna do that too. I'm not ready to kill the stream yet. I wanted to do some work for me. That homepage is so damn underwhelming. The rest was really, really good and thoughtful. Homepage sucks though. Not good enough. And again, after the show, I'm going to go back through that skill and train it with all the information that I've gathered from this live stream. But yeah, yeah. So it's going through and addressing that stuff right now. Let's do a little diversion while this is doing that. I'm going to share. Says, with 2 prompts of Opus 4.7 this morning, I spent 100% of my 20x Claude plan plus 150 US dollars in credits. Anthropic AI fixed this. This kind of thing grinds my gears. So I didn't even bother to look at anything other information. I just off the cuff replied, this is a skill issue. You're trying to do way too much in a single prompt. How much of your systems are being built at one time with near zero input from you? Well, that's what I assume. This guy's like vibe coding the whole planet. That's not what's happening. So, I fired that off, but then I decided to dig a little deeper based on some of the other comments people had. And so what's he doing? I want to know what he's doing, because the reason why I started to think about it, I'm like, well, the only times I've really run into limit problems is when I was refactoring an existing code base. Like if you have this big code base and you say, well, I want you to go back in here and fix all these things or look for these things or do whatever. That is what eats up a ton of tokens. And the reason why is because the model has to ingest this whole piece of software, and then it's got to figure out, well, where are we at? So I've eaten the whole software. That's a ton of tokens right there. Now I have to run it in memory right now to figure out all the pathways, what goes to what. And with a terribly written piece of software, that is an enormous spaghetti mess. Tons of tokens involved there as well. And then not only do I have to run it, I have to run it with different outcomes to figure out what leads to what. So when it's a spaghetti mess, you can imagine you're like making infinite spaghetti out of this crappy software. It is no surprise to me that when you do refactoring, you eat up credits. When I refactor a good code base, I eat up credits. Refactor a shitty code base, it's out of control in no time. So he says his prompts were to investigate production issues with some crappy piece of existing software and then create tickets around it. He said last week I could run it multiple times each day in the background and with my regular work, but without a problem. But that was with Opus 4.6. It does make sense to me. Opus 4.7 is automatically set to extra high reasoning, and that is brutal. Extra high reasoning is a token hog. Claude Code just compacted our conversation, so I can't go back and revisit what we had before. Not a big deal. Just keeping you guys up to date. So anyway, this guy says he's investigating production issues and creating tickets. If you watch the Practical AI show, and I may have mentioned it here on Vibing with PageMotor as well, but I keep returning to a particular central theme of the AI era. Everyone is being led to the same destination. That destination is something called the Great Refactoring. And what that means is that we are learning through trying to use AI, through all these changes in tokens, the way this is all handled, all the things that happen in AI are all pointing in the same freaking direction. And that direction is the Great Refactoring. And what that means is we are learning that all of our existing systems are pieces of shit. And when we try to apply AI to them, it's expensive. It's weighty. It doesn't work that well. Things break. All these cracks are getting exposed. And when AI is totally subsidized and we can just run these models on tons of context, it feels free, relatively speaking. We don't see the cracks as much because we're able to run this on this really inefficient mess that we already deal with. But as soon as these limitations start coming into play, Anthropic tightens the belt a little bit on tokens, no more free rides. We start loading up entire code bases into them and attempting to analyze them. When we start attempting to refactor large code bases and figure out what the hell is going on, then the cracks are exposed. And when the cracks are exposed, eventually what we figure out is, well, we need a new system. Our current system stinks. It would be best if we had a new system built from the ground up to work with AI so that we would stop having these problems. We would not need to run an entire code base through a freaking AI and create tickets to look for things to fix. Like, I know dude thinks his operating scenario there is legitimate, but it's a joke. Like, he thinks it's legitimate. He's going to whine about his Anthropic credits on the internet, and I look at this guy and think, what an absolute chud this loser is. Has no idea how software is really supposed to work. He's going to whine to daddy Anthropic over here but he doesn't realize everything he works with is a turd. Sorry, buddy. You've just revealed that you're not really good at this job. You're just a bit player here. You're a peon here while the wind swirls around you and you get blown whatever direction the wind is blowing. You don't understand what's going on. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but that's just the facts of the case. And everyone, this is not just this guy. I'm not trying to throw shade on this guy. The reality is everyone at Microsoft, everyone at Apple, everyone at all these companies is looking around saying, oh crap, at every financial institution, everywhere, you can't escape it, everywhere, every Fortune 500 company, every company everywhere dealing with any software, leading on a speeding bullet train to this eventual outcome of the great refactoring. Oh crap, our systems are garbage. We must refactor them all to be more useful in the era of AI, to actually work with token limitations, compute limitations, things like that. The great refactoring. You see it from many different angles these days. It's all there. That's what's happening. Ken says that guy's task is mainly tool-based, so the sonnet model would have been perfect for that task. I don't disagree at all. Opus, clearly overkill there. But, yeah, I couldn't help but comment on that. I see stuff like that, whining about tokens. If you want to let everyone know you don't really get it, go whine about tokens. The reality is real G's are out here not hitting their limits, not even close, because they're working with great systems that have been built for this era we now find ourselves in. And the irony is if you had practiced really disciplined software development and adhered very strongly to the principles established in Computer Science 101, the first freaking class you take in this discipline establishes everything you need to win in the current era. I mean, it's all there. You can layer on some data structures after that, which is still a first-year course. And you've got the combination that you need to absolutely slay in the era of AI. And yet, it is 2026. I've been doing this for 20 years. It was happening before now. Somehow, despite that being the fundamental stuff you get taught in computer science, when you get out into the real world and play with real software, you look around and realize nobody has done it this way. It is a freaking miracle, gang. I can't believe that that's the basics of computer science, and that's not the way things have been done. I think I can say this, and people just they don't get it. You don't get it. The software has not been built the way they teach you to build it the right way on day one because it's too hard or something. Yeah, it requires a little bit of discipline and a little bit of patience. You got to have some future time orientation. You got to say, I'll take on some pain now and won't be able to run my software and get this instant validation. I'll put it off so I can build it right. And that way, when I do run it, this thing's going to be a well-oiled machine. And yet that basic calculation has escaped this entire planet. AI and the great refactoring are going to ensure that we finally do what we should have done from the beginning that we all knew was right. And we build systems the right way so that they can be extended and built upon by AI in ways that are efficient. That is the bottom line of the now. All right, sauteed. Let's go see what it says. All right, all 4 fixes are done. Here's what changed. We fixed that text contrast. It was a 1.9 to 1 contrast ratio. I specifically stated in the documentation that that contrast minimum must be 3.0 or higher. Yet it violated this. I'm going to have to slap its wrist later. You know, what are we doing? I told you not to do it and you didn't. You didn't check it? You're supposed to check it. What are we doing? It mentions everything that was affected. Oh, Hero CT. Okay, it's a special class. Okay, I thought it made another mistake. Button hover fixed. Buttons get brighter on hover instead of going transparent. Doesn't say anything about the bottom border. Is that going to be weird? Look, it pulls up, too. It removes the border. I wonder if it didn't fix that, I'll notice. Navigation's fixed. Replaced with real page URLs. It didn't give me an explanation. It didn't say sorry. I want to know why, Claude. Homepage rewritten, remove generic stats grid testimonial structure. Content now speaks specifically about the product. Added a pricing section. All right, let's take a look. We ready? Are we on that? No, we're on this window. Switch it over so you can see the big reveal. All right, there we go. Let's hold shift, click refresh. There it is. It gave us a much longer headline. I don't know if I like that. I'm not going to. Way more text. Like, why are we adding text? It still pulls up. God damn it, Claude. That chafes grinds my gears so much. Why is it removing the bottom border of a button on hover? What the hell is that behavior? I specifically mentioned that as an item to fix in the previous prompt. We can move on when Claude's done the basics of what I have asked it to do. You're right, I missed that. Let me fix it now. Why would you remove the bottom border on hover? No designer does this. If you were to do that as a designer, you would also add a concomitant behavior, like some highlight around the outside or something that would offset that pixel movement from removing the bottom border, so you would not have a UI shift. Like, there'd be a reason for you to do this. Like, what is that? What is that? All right, anyway, refreshing. Looks like it's expanding, but maybe not. Yeah, whatever. It's not moving the page now. I can live again. All right, so let's see what it changed. It changed stuff that didn't need to change, but I guess that's actually better. It's not giving meaningless percentages. 15 minutes matters to people. 1 score, that's easy to get. 9 AI workouts. It's a little more straightforward. It's added this pricing section. You know, at least that stands out. I think this is pretty weak. It also fixed the button behavior. Like I said, it gets lighter. We'll see what the top button does. It didn't fix that. It didn't apply the pattern to that button. I mean, come on. Come on. Training. Yeah, so it's going to the different files. Okay. All right. Well, I don't hate that. Let's see what else it did. Button hover fixed, navigation fixed, homepage rewritten, text contrast fixed. This is the text contrast. It looks pretty close to this. Let's look and see if we can see this design notes.md file and see if it specifies those colors. A couple colors are obviously too close together. I'm just looking through this. Let's see if I can my window to that, just so you guys can see what I see. I don't want to leave you out in the dark there. This. So here's this file, the design notes. It tells us the motif, the palette archetype, so we know which color scheme was selected, typography, the composition. So it chose grid information dense composition archetype. I could have it change that to something else. I think I might do that just for giggles here. It's given us our GRT, scaling, our color palette. Okay, here we go. Action link, that's the purple color. Caption, impact, drop. These are purples. Call outs, call out alerts. Primary text, subdued text. And caption, 888FF. I think that caption color is too dark. I'm almost certain. What color is this? This is the caption color. Okay, I'm pretty sure the caption color is too dark and does not satisfy and or lightness requirements. Because I tested this, 8888 is too light on a dark black background. It's too dark. It's not enough contrast. It's hard to see this. Am I even sharing this? No, I'm not. So I'll show you. This is too hard to see. This text is too hard to see. It's just not enough contrast. You can see it, but it is not easy to read. It takes effort to focus on that. It's not quite enough contrast there. This is B8. I specified as the minimum level of lightness on supplemental text. It also looks like the secondary text color is being used in too many places. It's like the skill determined the primary color should only be used on headlines. Maybe that's right call here, but then we would need a third color to work with the other two. Caption color is way too dark. Any lighter, though, and it's too close to C2, the other color, the B8, B8, B8. So I think we need something between B8, B8, B8 and the heading color. I mean, this is all TMI, but like so there's a primary text color, which it has asserted as F5, 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 which is almost white. That's this. Then there is a secondary text color, which is B8, B8, B8. It added a third text color, which the skill and I never talked about, that's too dark. But if you make it any lighter, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between this and this. So visually, it loses its impact. So I said we need something between this and this, but even that's not going to look that good. Dark mode is funky. I don't love dark mode. I don't love the way color works on dark mode. But this is sensitive. You know, I'm going to have to give it some dark mode skills. But then the contrast between the resulting three probably won't be high enough. So maybe B8, B8, B8. I don't know. I don't love this. Maybe the caption should be purple or something to fix this all together. Also, the nav button did not get updated treatment. It still turns black on hover. And okay, and then the last thing I'm going to say, let's do a different design. I think that finally, I think the grid layout on the homepage is boring and just doesn't feel right. Can we try something else? I have nothing in mind. I don't know anything. I'm just a dum-dum here using this skill and I want a good result. So I have now it to repent of its sins and give me something I actually want. So here we go. We're going to let it cook. I think I made all the points I wanted to make. The future of software is entirely in the hands of skills. Skills are what matter. Skills are the thing to build now. Skills are software. I don't want you to think about them as this simplistic thing, as a skill. Like you need to think like if you really want something like PageMotor to serve as the foundation for your website and you think it's significant, like we think of WordPress as being significant. In fact, it is challenging for people to even overcome this idea that something could replace WordPress, which PageMotor already does. You need to think about skills in that same sort of lofty, weighty way. Skills are important. Skills are the way we actually get results from the software that we have now. Skills are serious software. Skills of the future. Skills are the things you are going to pay for happily because they're going to help you get unbelievable results. Skills are the way that you can get, you don't have to hire Pentagram in New York to make you a design and do your branding. You're going to have a couple of skills. It's maybe cost you a couple $1,000s. It's not going to cost you $250,000. That's a big difference. $2,000 is something that's available to anybody. It might be cheaper in the future. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, if that's the price, $2,000 versus $250,000, it's a no-brainer. And you have control over the process and can engage in this editorial back and forth where you refine and get the results that you want. Even when you're paying big money to a firm like that, unless you're just a social freak who has no concept of like pissing off other people, like it doesn't feel good to have a huge back and forth. Like you feel like you're eating up that company's time, even though you've literally paid for it. When by the time you hit the 60th revision, everybody hates each other. Skills solve this. You can do the skill 100 times and it's not going to hate you. It's not going to feel any differently about you. So it's still cooking there. Let me just scroll back through and see what it did real quick. Let me check the usage. 3 issues: hover bug, color hierarchy, grid monotony. Looks like it's going to use purple for the captions, which it should have done anyway. But like I said, there's sort of an oddity with dark mode and using different grayscales. They just aren't that discernible from one another. And we want to achieve a minimum contrast ratio. And this thing made the editorial decision to use primary text color, which I think should be used on body text. That's how my brain thinks about it. It owns that to the headlines. That's just something I've never done because I don't think about it that way. But with dark mode, I can see why it made that consideration and did that. So interesting stuff you run into when you are building these things and dealing with these problems. Back to this. Let's see where we're at. And so it's changing the way the page is going to be. All right, here we go. All right, let's just rip it. And I'll take it over to that page. So this is the new layout. We see this text, supplemental text is now purple. I actually like that a lot better. It's actually legible. It's done this little vertical format now instead of the grid. This is actually going to work better on mobile. All it did was change it from a fatter grid to a thinner grid. All right, I'm going to kill the stream here. I am going to describe to it though. Like, I'll put this on real quick. You know, this is the reality. The good news is this is the process of building a design when you're actually being critical about the outcome that you're getting. Like, okay, I see this here. I don't really like it. The beauty of this skill is you can go back through and refine this as many times as you like. When it's already built all the assets, going back and making these spot fixes is actually very cheap, very quick. And so then now once you've got your main thing built, if you've captured the vibe, that's your goal. When you run the skill the first time, when you finish with phase 1, what you're really going for is, did I capture the vibe? Is this a starting point that I like? You know, I went through the other templates. I like a lot of what this did. So I think there's something here that's redeemable. And then the question from there is, all right, how do we massage this into what we really want? How do we get the details right? And that is the goal of these follow-up sequences and the future interactions with the skill. Is like you before you want to, move this on to the next phase of the project, moving it over into a design, converting it into a design for PageMotor to actually use. You want to nail down this stuff, and the skill is designed to be sensitive to token usage and actually won't use that many tokens. Like, you're not eating up a ton when you engage in this back and forth to try and get the little details right for you. So do the last thing. I think the layout stuff is too rigid. You could have mixed it up and used horizontals more with the newer vertical patterns. I don't like how it feels like a one-trick pony. Mixing and matching design elements seems way better. And I tried to express that as more of just an aesthetic opinion. Like, I could have expressed that in very specific terms that are super designy, but that's not really indicative of how the skill is going to be used out in the wild. So it's redoing that page with a little bit more variety. And this is a good demonstration because, like, you want to approach your projects this way. Don't just accept what it gives you. Work through it and try to get the results that you want. Like, be pleased with the output. You want to be happy with results. I think it's going to drop the icons. Like, I dislike some of the stuff that it did. I've got a lot of work to do in the skill. But I do think, especially the interior page generation, the like the newsletter page, the actual like article page, and then the landing page, those were very strong using the existing design motif. Uh, I think some of the elements that were used in the page. Let me share that. I'm going to go back and teach it that it probably should have used some of these formatting elements on the homepage. These are more exciting. Adding in little splashes of these other colors. Using this is impact text, I believe. This highlight needs to be fixed. Not a big deal right now. This is way better than it was. My goodness. These things could have been used on the homepage to make it more interesting visually. It's very monotonous right now. Even maybe some of these buttons, like that orange button, would have been a nice addition to the homepage somewhere. I am going to do one more thing. I said I was going to kill the stream, but I want to chastise it one more time. All right, it cooked. Let's go look at the homepage. All right, so it made this wider. Okay, that's better. It's making better use of the horizontal real estate. Oh God, I hate this. I hate that. That is terrible. Those just should have been cards. That's the stuff I could tell it. Whatever. Any good design, you're going to have to do some back and forth. I'm not sure. Like, I'll have to think about this. Like, it can use cards, or it can use vertical presentation format like that to display quasi-tabular styles of information. And the question is, how do you do that in a way that doesn't feel like same with AI? So that's for me to think about. I'm going to have to go through the skill and do some of that stuff. All right. So last thing here. Let's go back to the prompt. So I didn't like on that homepage, like it could have made the hero section like have a dark purple background with something like wavy gradient thing going on, maybe like a grid SVG based pattern or something. Like, can we do something here, gang? All right. Last thing is the hero section. You could have used a neon purple BG or something and maybe included an SVG grid BG overlay to make it interesting. Maybe the purple could be on a gradient or something. Just anything to make that section pop and look super important. Could use the orange button style in it too to make this hero section totally different from the rest of the design. Like, this is what a good designer would do. You establish the overall theme that you're going to be using, but then you diverge from that theme when it's sensible to do so, and when you are specifically doing that to capture attention in the strongest way possible. Maybe some movement in this section. I don't know. All I know is the home page is a black, monotonous blob. Not really visually interesting at all. And like I said, there was other stuff I don't like. I'm not going to address that right now. It's not worth everybody's time. But this is. So I said the hero section is boring. You got the purple as the brand color. The hero section could have been like purple, maybe had some like a grid SVG image background to like make it look like there's an image in the background, like something to give it some visual interest. It could have had a gradient applied to it. So it's like lighter purple on the left, darker purple on the right. I could have had some animated stuff, some movement, like something. Give me something designing here, for crying out loud. So that's what I've asked for. Let's see what it does. And again, I'm taking all this this information from this live stream. I will be feeding it right back into the skill, saying, we got to do better, gang. I want wow results. I'm going to need to train it like that. I haven't said anything like that to the skill. I want some pop here. I want people to be impressed. I am not impressed right now. This, we're going to hold shift, click refresh. Let's see what we got. Do we have any presents? LOL, no. LOL, no. What the hell do they do here? What is this? Okay, we got to, whatever. It's not hero, it's update. God damn it, we have existing classes for this shit. Maybe I should have used Maybe I should have used Opus 4.7. This thing absolutely shit the bed. So anyway, it did apply a gradient. It also did apply a grid SVG back there. I can see it. It's just very faint. It did what I told it to do. I kind of poked at it to do a little better. It didn't. Whatever. I mean, this is better than it was, though. I think this is more visually interesting than what we had before. What do we think here? I'm looking at it on the video to see what we think. The rest of the page is boring. I've got some more things in mind. You butchered both buttons on the home page by not using the right augmentation classes. These are limited to save, delete, action, update, and would have fixed the hero button. Not sure about the CTA. All right. So anyway, there we go. That is the new design generation skill. Obviously, right now, the most redeemable thing about it is this interior regular content page that it created. It's got comprehensive formatting styles. It did a good job of honoring those. The design conversion skill for PageMotor actually takes it even a step further and make it even more interesting than this. But this is nice. Like, this is a really nice starting point. I love that it gave us the button styles and that it's already got the basis for the, diverse usage. When I tried to get the skill to use those on the home page, it butchered them. I had to fix it to make this one orange. It wasn't going to be like that yet. It wrote too much CSS, basically. And that's also part of Claude. Like, Claude has limitations. Like, I need to teach it a lot in this skill so it doesn't make these mistakes. It's the knowing reality of the situation. This page, the landing page, very strong, very strong. It butchered the buttons again, but it screwed them up on the last one. That's good. And then we'll share this one. This is the newsletter sign up page. This is also very strong. So happy about the interior pages. If you fed this stuff into the PageMotor design conversion skill, you would get a full suite of templates that was ready for action. You'd have everything you see here ready. That's very, very nice. You would have a fully outfitted design, not just a pretty homepage, because that's what AI has given us to date, just a pretty homepage. And we want the full suite. So it's important that the generated design contains the full suite, and then the conversion tool can turn that full suite into a fully functioning website. Ken says it's really difficult trying to get these AI models to break their training models, but he's up for the task. Absolutely. That is the thing. Skills are the new frontier. This is where it's happening. This is how it's going to happen. This is the only way. AI is actually AI has a basic training data set. The more it runs, the more humans are out there running this, and that's the only stuff it's pulling from, the more confident the model is becoming in using that, saying, well, this is what they want. We're going to continue to use this. So it's actually making the problem worse. So it is absolutely essential that the people who are able to do so venture out and start building these skills to train these models with the knowledge, the judgment calls, situational awareness, and the tools that they need to be able to be adaptive operators and not these one-trick ponies. And the reason that Anthropic and other companies don't do that is because there's an infinity of things we could design skills for. Nobody has the time. This one might seem like an important skill to nail down, and I would argue that's true. But, when they look at it from their perspective, they don't have time to do all this. So it's up to us to build the skills. Really, the AI models exist, and then everything cool about AI is the skills being built to point the AI cannon in various directions and fire and get amazing results. So there it is. That is Vibing with PageMotor for the week. Hold on. We got one last thing. It just finished a thing. Let's see what it did. It said it fixed the thing. The buttons, it failed. The buttons used the hero class, which is used to refer to multiple elements. Total design failure. Hero class should not be used on any buttons at all. And this is well specified in the skill. Just a complete failure to follow basic instructions. Unreal. Anyway, that's the deal. It's not easy out here on the frontier, but the point is we are aiming for better results. We're using skills to do it. And by God, nothing's going to stand in our way. Thanks for watching Vibing with PageMotor. Come join me Friday at 11 a.m. Every Friday at 11 a.m. for Practical AI. We talk about stuff like this and other stuff with AI. It is a fun show that's more comprehensive. This show is more about web design, website-related stuff, specifically using the PageMotor platform and Claude Code and skills. So anyway, see you next time, gang. Thanks for being here today. Take it easy.